Technology is going to create abundance for certain individuals, groups of peoples, and countries. Experiment and try to see how you can use it to, again, get to where you want to get faster. You need to zoom out and understand the massive changes that are happening, but also the massive opportunities. Anybody can become a world expert in anything, now. The process is, no matter what, it's how to talk to a computer, to an AI, to get it to help you get to what you want to get. We're already living in Mark Zuckerberg's simulation, in Elon Musk's simulation, in their version of it. Elon Musk has already invented a time machine, or is on the verge of inventing a time machine. Exciting times. All right, I'm TechGuyver, known on social media as TechGuyver. I make videos basically showing people what they can do with AI, how they can help them be more creative, be more productive. And I love building, I love coding, I love creating. And I think it's a super incredible time to be alive. And so I'm happy to just share some of my learnings, insights with this amazing podcast right here with Wes and Dylan.
Walk us through what you're doing, and then let's talk about like what got you to this point right now.
I think most of my biggest audience is on Instagram right now. I have 204,000 followers over there. I basically try to take all the interesting things that are happening in AI, and I try to show people in a simple way why it's so powerful and impactful, and how, if I can do it for my home, then they can do it from their home as well. And so I try to do it in a bunch of different ways. Recently, I made, for example, a video about Nano Banana and Runway's Act 2. So I like to, by now I have knowledge of a bunch of different tools, and pretty much when these new technologies come out, I have an idea of how I can kind of delightfully show people its ability, and combining it a lot of times with other tools, because it's never, or not never, but a lot of the times combined, you can create all this even cooler and more unique stuff. So this is my original video that I recorded. I was just back in the US at home. Here I did Nano Banana to basically say, I took the first frame, I did Nano Banana basically say, hey, make me a Simpsons character, make me a girl version of this photo. And then I plugged that back into Act 2. And one of the things that I found with Runway's Act 2 is if the driver video is very close to the actual character video, like everything is very, very similar, then you're going to get really, really good results, which is what you're seeing here, which is what is actually making this so viral. I think it was viral on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. So it seems like universally, this type of content resonates with people. And I think another reason is because I try to do this hybrid AI human co-creation, I call it. So it's showing how it empowers you, how you can kind of take a person, and how you can take these things about the person, your place, your location, and whatever it is, and use AI to make something new, make something cooler. So there's kind of like a connection there. So this is my page. Yeah, I've had some really viral videos, 17 million, 18 million people. And aside from that, actually, I am... go back to the screen with you. Yeah, aside from that, I'm actually, an entrepreneur, a coder. I've been building coding all pretty much every day for the last 16 years, I would say already. But before that, I was into gaming and movies and all that stuff. So it's pretty crazy to recently just catching up with friends back home that I haven't seen in a while, how kind of growing up when there was really, like seeing the whole technological evolution, and also from coding and building and being able to see all the different sides of that. And so very grateful and excited to be at the point where we can experience it. It's not just in movies, reality has outpaced movies in many, many ways, which is crazy to think about. So combining all of that, I'm trying to show people, not just tell people, and also build for people. Basically a place that they can use AI to make their lives better. And I think that can help make everybody's lives better if each and every one of our lives is better.
You've went viral across so many different platforms. I mean, like, what's working? Because I mean, you're huge on Instagram. You're going viral on X. Tell us, where else are you on TikTok? And like, what's working where? And like, what's the playbook for different platforms?
Yeah, I've been going viral on different platforms for different reasons. I think each platform has like different mechanics a bit. Let's see. Oops, let me go back here. Some videos, the most rare is when actually not as many videos go viral on the same on all platforms as you'd think. Some videos go viral on different platforms, but we can see this one was viral recently. We showed this one before. I'll show this other one that was viral on TikTok.
There's a few with millions. That was insane to see. Like,
my
that's
TikTok is
crazy.
not as big as my Instagram. This video went viral on a bunch of different platforms, and I can even explain it. I think I understand why. This is the source video, and this is the output, both in Runway's video to video 3 Turbo. Now, what was interesting here is because like we talked about world simulations, and because even Runway's video to video, all theirs are world simulations. What's interesting is I knew that, this is the initial shot and runway. And so this is the initial shot, but I knew that once I take the camera outside of the room, then it's just going to kind of continue visualizing what it understands of the world. So if I'm in like a caveman era world, this in the initial shot, it might not know what's going on, but it will go ahead and recreate that just like I was living, in some sort of a cave and I went and there was an outside area. Same if I was living in, I forgot what this was, in Byzantine area or something, era. It would go out and create that. And that's kind of that aha moment for people, because this is not a regular, image filter or something. This is a world. That's when they understand there's a world simulation. And that's kind of like the reveal. And that's the mind-blowing aspect for people, is once I go outside here, whoa, there's another whole area that's there. It imagines that world. It's simulating a whole world given the input video and a prompt. And that's kind of like, it's mind-blowing to a person, because I mean, is it real? Do we live in a simulation? I think it triggers that question in a lot of people. And obviously when you're going to these examples, which there was no real video history or proof of, documented video of, because there were no cameras invented yet, then seeing that, which feels to be like an alternate reality, is just, that creates that effect to people. So does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah. And then obviously, like if we're talking a bit more on the practical level, I wish I could do mobile. Just how many times this was shared. And on Instagram, I think what the best way, and obviously they're changing the algorithm all the different times, but it's when people has really good stats on the, let's see, on the sharing. Can't show, but it's like 500,000 likes, 100,000 shares. But when people share it on their story, so when people share it on their story, here we go. You could see 500,000 likes, like you could see the stats of it here. And this got 20,000 followers. So the mechanic, which is, it's crazy to think, Instagram, if you have a really, really viral video, that will get you, it's kind of like VC, that one few videos will get you more engagement than all the other ones. So you just got to keep doing and perfecting it and kind of understanding what makes it better. But yeah, I would say once you sort of figure that out, then you're less worried about just growing the numbers. It's more about now thinking about more about quality and like, the people and attracting the right people and the right ideas and getting the right message across, versus necessarily 100% optimizing all the time for, things, once you sort of feel like you figure it out.
And
Maybe
how
I'll show.
many more did you film that didn't make it? Like, did you just prompt it twice with the Byzantine and the caveman and then
Oh,
call it done?
so Byzantine took me a bit more prompts. This was like a few different prompts. Yeah, you have to prompt it, and you have to do something like turn the structure deformation. They have a slider there from 0 to 10. You have to go from like 7 to 9. You have to try it a few times. The other thing is you need to understand is, right, they're constantly testing different models behind the scenes. Or doing some other, it could be the same model, but they might have, some ABC testing, right? Because they want to get feedback from people. Not just about the model, they're testing kind of like different variations of it. So you need to also run it a few times, even like a few seconds between them. And you can only know that you're going to get different outputs just by experimenting. So being a CCP and just generally experimenting a lot with these tools, you start learning a bit more about their strengths and their weaknesses, ideally their strengths, right? So you can create cool stuff. That's at least what I try to focus on. So that's kind of how I found this. And I saw that it worked really well for like historic stuff. And I think since then, a lot of people have been doing also a lot of historic content. Like you see it working very well on VO, both because of the psychological kind of aha moment and just that it works really well too.
Yeah, but I was always shocked when I've been playing with VO3 recently how I can try the same prompt 6 times and be just so ready to give up. Like, it's just not even, I was trying to animate this logo and I'm like, it's just not going to do it. And then prompt 7, it got it. And I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like you're so far off and it just needs a whole different, just roll of the
Yeah, and
dice,
that's
I
what I think is
guess.
going to be interesting now, right? Like I think UIs are going to change when we're going to get, real time sort of generation, or as it gets cheaper and cheaper. you should be, and this is will be probably the new flow, is not going just like linearly. I think what's cool about AI technology, it allows you to split time. So why not generate 10 different variations, slightly optimized, boom, choose, 10 at a time, 10 at a
Yeah.
time, 10 at a time. I think that's what you need to learn how to kind of work and use. And I mean, just for example, uh, I work with like different, I'm using Claude Code, like many people I think now, to code. And now my flow is like I have like six, agents at a time, like in a TMUX screen, so I could split up. And you kind of need to juggle and be able to like your decision making. You should be ideally making the best decisions the fastest, right? If you want to reach wherever you want to get. So like learning how to also think like that and make quick decisions and analyze. Same for image generation or video generation or content generation. I think is going to be important. It's just going to be easier, like versus having to linearly, right? And you don't know if it's going to be the 33rd shot.
Can I
What
ask
are
what's going on with your Claude Code? Do you have like a whole team there? Do you have like different agents set up to do different parts of your like front end, back end, or why so many screens?
Yeah, yes and no. I use like a hybrid approach. I'm not now. There's sub agents in Claude, so you can call them. I have like a DHH agent, so like there's specific agents that I'll bring in to do certain tasks. But generally, I like to have 6 tabs open at a time, and some full screen tabs. It's flowing, It's like this is
Yeah.
generally my base, and then if I need to dive deeper into something, I'll go full screen. But in Tmux, you can like zoom in and this is where Super Whisper comes in really, really like, so imagine having to type things to here. I can go, like refactor this and give me analysis. Boom, send that off and like call that. Go into here, give me a TLDR of this and da 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 da, right? And then I could really quickly like go in between agents, have them carrying out tasks. You have the shift tab to go into plan mode, so it'll use Opus. So pretty much you can very quickly like get to something happening, get an analysis of it, and move very quickly. But it depends what I'm working on the setup that I'm having. For Super Creator, which is kind of like I'm building sort of like a Khan Academy Hugging Face, where anybody can go ahead and create stuff, and mostly about prompts, seeing other people's prompts. So I'm one person building all of this. It's front end, back end, iOS as well. Makes it very useful. But if I'm working on a standalone project, it's a standalone idea, I might just have one Claude. I don't need more than that. But this is kind of more of a beast. Yeah.
So supercreator.ai, that's your app you're creating. We do want to make sure we talk about that a little bit. But sorry, what
Yeah.
was the Whisper tool you mentioned? I just
Oh,
want to make.
yeah. Super Whisper. I use Super Whisper from this guy that's on Twitter, Neil. I don't know his full name, but he built it, and it's a really great tool. It uses Whisper, right? OpenAI's text speech to text model, which is quick and has high accuracy, way better than the Max dictation, which is horrible. So you can very quickly go and just go speech to text anywhere on your computer. And so when you're working on a computer today, so many things are text based. Most of your interaction it might not even be a chat, right? It doesn't matter. But it allows you to very quickly speak out things and just have them convert. So, for example, and again, it's very high accuracy, and you could speak very fast. So, if you want to, you could speak faster than what you would to a normal person, right? So, I could go like, look at my code, refactor it, analyze everything, give me a nice prompt, and how I can use Codex with it. I don't know, just a random thing,
Jeez,
right?
what?
And that's almost like as fast as I can say it. And then I could plug that in or whatever and use that with whatever I want. So the way it's, if you take that and if you could, right, this is like more about like the way you're sending information to a computer is either through voice, mouse, text. But like, what's the thing that takes you the most time? It's probably typing. So if you could, speed that up and pretty much make it as fast as you can think, then your ability to make decisions is gonna like increase by so much more, right? If you can make 10 times more commands to your computer, you can learn 10 times faster. If you can learn 10 times faster, you can probably get to such a like you kind of need to work on there's different ways today that we can just give information to the computer or make decisions a lot faster. And that compounds massively in the world where you can have agents working on agents, working on agents, right? So this is also why I think we're going to see these one person, $1 billion companies, because you're going to have people that are
Oh
just so
yeah.
good at working on a computer that they'll be able to play like a video game and they'll be really, really good video game players. But it's reality. It's not a video game in a way. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
unfortunately,
super whisper.
this tool is not on Windows. So to my fellow Windows users, we are second-class citizens. Nobody likes us. I got to find a similar replacement because yeah, it's Whisper,
There
so
is
it's
for
open
sure.
source. Yeah, it's open source,
Build it.
OpenAI's open source transcription model. So this seems like a very simple thing. So there's got to be an alternative. So, but yeah,
You could,
if I find
yeah.
one, I'll post it.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely open source versions. You could build your own today in a way, but I mean, probably easy to download something that's working. Yeah, and I would say what I think is going to be what I'm trying to build is, and after I've been going a while with my startup, and it's kind of evolved over time, but now the focus is, I think there's like I say the prompts in the pudding or whatever. There's so much in these prompts. We're seeing the value of them. A lot of people dismissed prompt engineering and so forth. I think knowing how to prompt is going to be probably one of the most important skills that you could have, and it combines so many other things, right? Knowing how to prompt basically means knowing how to understand how models work and get them to do what you want. So it's very vast, but if you know how to prompt, you'll be able to learn how to prompt other tools pretty much, right? So you should be able to learn how to work with any sort of something to something technology, which there's going to be a lot of. So yeah, I recommend. I mean, these kind of stuff just helps you like become a better prompt engineer because you can learn faster. It's all about iterating and learning. So,
Speed
anyways, with
is very
Super
important.
Creator, I'm trying to create kind of like a place where you can learn from other people's prompts and then recreate them. And this is, for example, I have here like I did Nano Banana, make him into half humanoid robot. Somebody can use that creation and then they could remix it. And because now we're seeing so many new different companies, different APIs, it's getting very decentralized, and there's going to be open source models, right? So anybody's going to be able to run these types of technology more or less from different types of locations, but there's no easy way to see, to track it. It's kind of like social media is the place for it now. So I'm trying to create a place where I can both share, examples of how I made certain videos. And now since Runway has Act 2 API and Aleph API, and there's Nano Banana API, people like me can build, and anybody in the world can build very simple but powerful workflows that people can just go ahead and kind of like create something like you, like the people that they like whatever they created. And so I see a lot of this transferring of like allowing people to create like you. That's the new monetization in a way, rather than having them purchase a specific part of you, if that makes sense, like a result. They're purchasing the ability to create like you, your mind, your internal algorithm, whether it's a prompt or a collection of prompts. Effectively, that's how you are thinking or how you are, some subset of your creativity.
It seems like you're using Runway quite a bit, and Runway is a very special AI model. Of course, there's been tons of good ones like VO3 from Google, but Runway has always been kind of like just very, very solid for many different reasons. But I noticed you used it quite a bit. Can you tell us a little
Yeah.
bit like why is it appeal to you over everything else that's out there?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think for me, I've been lucky to a lot of times pick the right players to spend and bet my time on. Maybe before that, let's say it's Firebase from Google, or Airtable, or different things that I kind of bet on companies or technologies or get into things early for different reasons. And maybe my ventures never went off like I would have wanted to, but there were some good bets there that I just knew over time I would get one of those bets right. Maybe crypto, at a certain amount early on. I built for crypto also, like during one of the initial waves. And Runway as well. It's a company that I've been following. The Twitter X is really good. You could get to see what the founding members, the CEO is talking about, how they think, and that's super important because these are the people that are impacting the companies. And if you see that they think in a certain way and are building in a certain way, and they're passionate about something in a certain way, that is probably a good place to invest your time. It's going to be more stable, less of a chance that that they're going to get bought out and change everything, that the team is going to crumble. Like there's a good solid foundation. And so I've been using Runway early on. In the beginning, I was a regular customer and user. I wasn't. Now I'm a creative partner there. And again, by just having understanding the technologies and seeing that there's a massive gap of what people think is possible and what is available, I just, instead of trying to build apps, I was early GPT-3, before there was even Chat GPT APIs. I always try to build for people. And at a certain point, I was like, I need to show people. Maybe that's faster to get people to understand how quickly this could impact their lives rather than getting them to go through an app and all this stuff. And so um, Runway was one of these tools where I just was following the founder, looked at the company. I saw what they were building also as somebody who has been building before and built many apps and so forth. Okay, they understand what they're doing. They're not just trying to replace people. They're trying to embrace kind of people and build for creators rather than maybe businesses necessarily. So that was one of the angles. And so there's that. And then obviously using the product and seeing that they was giving good results and that they're, they raised a bunch of money, for example, as well, right? There's all these factors that you just need to look at to, I think, hedge your bet. So that's why I use Runway. And mainly I felt like Gen 3 Turbo video to video. It's one of their features, which is pretty old. It's still like there's nothing like it, and it's a real, you feel like a real world like simulation where you could see an alternate portal that is a mirroring of your reality and the quality, and it's really, really good. It's really powerful. It does everything. It's a full 360 character set. And so there's still a lot of really cool stuff you can do with that. And yeah, so just using it for a lot. Also, their creative partner program is amazing. I think they've really done it the best. They give you unlimited credits. Some other companies like try to keep it really short and don't really let you explore. So a bunch of factors put me into using Runway, and obviously their constant innovation of adding new stuff and talking to creators and artists. I say like they're the Walt Disney of this generation or whatever. I think so because they're allowing anybody to build their own Walt Disney. And yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
am excited to see what they come out with, and I think they're going to consistently be giving stuff that nobody else is, and other companies are going to copy them. So you want to follow the innovators.
So one thing that's very interesting to me about Runway is they talked about putting some research money and some funding into the concept of sort of world models. So these videos, they have some understanding of how the world works, how physics work. Not because they're calculating anything, but just sort of like a rule of thumb. So they're able to create something that looks like realistic physics. I know Runway announced perhaps putting some money into research into world models. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, so I'm actually pulling out a video that I made about it. I think they were really the first that did it at a level where it kind of surpassed that uncanny valley in a way. And I did a video, but this was with references that they released. So I think that was the first instance that I felt like I was really able to see, actual level of a world model that makes sense. This was
Hmm.
like a little video that I made about it. Is it? Yeah, it is showing my screen. Um, Well, basically, right, you gave it one or three. It isn't a video generator. It's a world simulator. And I also showed, right, how, they've wrote about this and exactly what you're mentioning. So I think they were one of the first. And I think
Yeah.
what was interesting, right, is they came out like nobody really expected them to be one of the companies to go ahead and do that. It was Google, OpenAI, was maybe the top questions. And then they kind of came in and my opinion, they were the first ones to do it. So again, maybe showing that just having a good team and a good vision, you'll be able to move faster because you're more focused without as many resources. And yeah, so they have it, and I think they're going to continue doing it. I would assume that they're going to have something kind of like Genie coming out soon. They're doing game worlds. But what's also interesting is like you talked about the corpus of 2D video data, how much that can train world model and simulations, and that's what we saw with like VO3 and Genie now. So the big companies that have all this data, and I was kind of recently thinking about how are we going to have like a winner takes all in AI, and I don't think we are. But different companies are strategically placed in different locations and have a different set of like some have social, some have hardware, some have servers, some have like consumer. Nobody has everything. Some will have robots, some will not. So it's interesting. And that means there's obviously opportunity for companies like Runway to do certain things better because nobody can do it all better, right? And so that even everybody's trying to do it all. But yeah, I think it will be interesting to see also with synthetic data as well. Like, once we run out of real world data, like all of the YouTube, all of the real time plus historic, we're going to start having models learn from simulations already. And then who's going to create certain simulations. Like, well, there's going to be advantages there. Nobody knows what the right simulation is to create a given output. How do you measure that? So I think there's just so many things happening, and yeah, it's very
So,
interesting. Runway is definitely one of the big companies that I um, am interested to keep using, and I would recommend other people to use because they're very simple but powerful. And when you have that, it means that you could just do a lot, and it's easy for people to learn that are maybe not as technical.
yeah, one of
Yeah.
the things that really surprised me about your content is it seems like now to succeed using AI content, what it really comes down to is sort of a childlike creativity almost. I mean, you have to hold objects up and then imagine in your head, like, this is going to become a fish, or this is going to be a lasso, or I'm going to have this, little thing walk through and it's going to become something. So it almost seems like the people who are succeeding right now are not from the traditional media world. They're not thinking that way. And they're actually like childlike creators. Do you feel that way?
I think there is a big part of that. Like I relate sometimes like childlike to authenticity. It's showing something that's like real, and it's not, it's being
Or
natural, and it's
imaginative?
using, yeah, and using the things around you, and that can be more resonating in a world of, more and more AI content. And like I kind of did a game theory, where there's going to be infinite amount of AI content, but there's going to be limited amount of or human plus whatever content. And so I think that's just a good area to spend your time on. Spend your time on the something that is rooted in reality, because that's going to be finite. And that's why a lot of these videos are also working, because it's easier for a person to draw a relationship between reality to what you're doing, and also they can, if they're doing it, this person can do it. There's more of a human connection there. And like with the
And
instant
what's your
dopamine, all this AI content, I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
and what's your
That
process like? I mean, do you just close your eyes and imagine, oh my God, I have like a paper towel in the other room. I'll grab that and I'll pretend that's a sword and then I'll make a cool like ninja movie. Like, how are you just coming up with stuff that seems to be standing out in the world of AI?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, I was really early. That was a big, probably good fortune on my end to try to push it early. Like again, the runway videos were super viral because it was I think one of the first time people saw mainstream, like how good it was and how great you can do it. And so that's positioning, right? Like content is also super interesting because it's not maybe one video. It's about a continuous work, and like you got to weave your way into this very huge neural net people all over the world watching it, right? So you need to kind of like, it's not even one video, it's just you need to constantly be saying something, storytelling, and then your content kind of fits in a bit more. And so I think there's that, and there's again showing something simple to people. My ideas now are very free flowing. I'm very fortunate where my life is inspiration for my content, and my content is inspiration for my life. And so that way, that's what's so good about being a content creator, is that anything can be inspiration, and you can immediately transmitted to potentially millions, right? If not tens or hundreds of millions of people around the world. Like, so, um, and in that way, I try to keep it not so scripted, almost like freestyling an idea that I have, like a painting, a concept. And I've had to over time work on sharpening all my skills that I can do that faster, right? I don't want to have to like have an idea and have it take me a week to go out and do. I try to think of ideas that I can kind of build fast and learn along the way. So it's a combination of all these things. Maybe that allow me to have these big ideas, compress them into short formats, and then put it out. It's kind of like a process, like you're saying, but the process is very flowy in a way. I don't batch content. I don't, you know, think like I need to create this amount of content now, right? But in the beginning, you got to just try until you figure it out, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's trying to grind through creativity just backfires. You know what I mean? You got to be like going 10 out of 10, and then you got to go 1 out of 10 and like relax and then kind of alternate. If you're trying to just like do your best. You slowly slide to like a 6 out of 10. You just stay there. You can't hit those peaks if you're just grinding out. With creative tasks specifically, there's jobs you can grind, but not creativity. I don't think,
No.
at least not for
I
me.
also feel like sometimes you can overcook something. Was it? I could be wrong on this, but I think the creator of Doom had a lot of money and then wanted to make a sequel and spent, and because it was almost like a curse that he had so much resource, because then the game just took year after year after year after year to come out, and it was okay, but the magnum opus was about getting something out the door at a certain point, not just perfecting it. You
How
know?
much like how much restrictions they had, how limited resources they had. They produced such a classic for its time. It was it was incredible. Was
Yeah,
it
and
the
the money ruined it almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And now you're
But
gonna draw that right to Meta and like the super intelligence like team, right? It's like the most money is not gonna get you necessarily the best result. I mean, there's so many examples of this big and small, how the resourcefulness creates efficiency, and sometimes over resources, creates like lack of focus, and so it's interesting to see that, I think, in so many different ways.
and Meta
Is that what
is
do you?
already unraveling a little bit. Sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
No,
But
yeah,
yeah,
I'm curious, is that what people are saying to you in your comments and in your DMs? Are they inspired by your content and they're thinking to
Yeah, yeah,
themselves
yeah. That
like,
was
what?
also yeah.
Because
So I
you,
think. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
that's it. Because you don't come off as that kind of corporate high budget person. You really are relatable as a regular person. So I'm wondering if that's resonating.
Yeah, I guess it's resonating. I mean, I obviously see by the growth in my account, by the people that are reaching out, by what's surprising, I think, is what's crazy about the internet and Instagram or whatever is your content. You don't know who it gets shown to, and as things get exposed to more and become more viral or whatever, not sometimes it's also not about virality, who it shows it to. And it's not just the amount of people that are reaching out and getting inspired. And I mean, at the end of the day, I want to help people learn, and I think it can help better their life. So my goal is really to help people. It's that's my top priority. And so it's awesome to see that, but also who, the people that are mega influential in technology and in art and entertainment, like I'm exposing them to these things of AI, and then it's think about like that effect of how that's going to impact the stuff that they were working on. Mega actors, so inspiring even them. I would never think, it'd be my wildest dreams. Like you're inspiring this director that you used to watch as a kid of all these famous movies, like saying that he likes your work. That's crazy, and I'm doing it from with zero budget, pretty much, and anybody can go ahead and do that. So it's good, and it's more clarity for me that I just need to continue going, and I need to keep on learning, keep on failing, keep on trying, because I think it can help more and more people. And it's crazy, like this dream I had as a kid of trying to help millions, billions of people. Like now I can really see a clear path of it, thanks to AI, thanks to technology, thanks to all the infrastructure that has been there. So yeah, and it's been way more than I would have expected. I think I came into it a bit more jaded, that social media, it's all going to be hate comments and everybody's just going to try to put you down and stuff like that. Maybe how business reality has taught me a bit more, where there's a lot more competitiveness. But surprisingly, I think like you, and this is something that I just spoke in a summit in front of 1,000 people, teaching them about AI, talking to them about AI in Bangkok, and just realizing that like the audience is, you attract the audience based on the content you create in a way. Which makes sense, because the algorithm's also gonna, show the content to people that are interested in your content. So if you create content that makes people laugh, you're gonna get more of that crowd that likes humor. If you're gonna create content that's more inspirational, you're gonna get audience that that is interested in being inspired more and can appreciate that more. And so
Oh,
I found that that's what's awesome, and I'm sure also you guys as well. Like the impact you can have today from anywhere on a screen. That's what's so special about humans. We don't have to be physically next to each other. We can transfer ideas, inspiration, even one story, one quote can change somebody's life, and who knows how much that can change. So it's like I think there's a massive just kind of dance of people in the world right now, and I'm getting to participate in that dance, and it's awesome, and I'm very grateful for it. Yeah.
yeah, I've never quite thought so much about how cyclical. How do I say that? It's almost like if you have this job and you don't like doing it, but you come home and you have a hobby, let's say it's like Legos or something, and you start creating AI content around Legos, and the algorithm's going to show it to the Lego community. And then those people are going to respect you and like you and be part of a community, and probably opportunities in the Lego world would build up. So, yeah, it's a very powerful way, not just to think about you pushing something out there, but you're also advertising for the kind of people you want to spend the rest of your life with, which is a huge directional change in people's lives.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. I really, I think you could look at like content and social media and the internet, and there's different ways, but obviously the negativity, there's such a massive positivity. And I actually think today there needs to be more people that are showing how simple things can really help people get to whatever that they want, and teaching them the foundation and stuff. And I think that starting to see like more of a trend of that versus just, clickbaity, like things that are more negative and getting people to react more on the negative stuff, and more about like trying to spread positivity. And as hippie way as that is, but I'd rather live my life in that way, and that's helps me align with people that are also more looking to that. And I think that's like the techno optimism. It's like we believe that technology can create freedom and abundance for humanity, and you're not going to convince everybody in the world, even if you gave them like a magic button that would say all your dreams are going to come true. There's going to be probably a massive amount of people that are not going to press on it for whatever reasons that they have. So I think it's just about trying to connect with the people that have, believe in a more positive outcome for us in our lifetime, and our ability to impact that. And I think that's like and if you believe in the power of technology, and if, it's even 50% accurate, all the stuff we're talking about, then there's a really high likely chance that there will be a very good positive outcome for people. So to me, that's super exciting to be able to go and explore and be at the forefront of that, and like have an understanding of that. It's kind of crazy, but it's, yeah, again, um it's awesome, and it's interesting, and every day it's changing. It's really like Ready Player One. I feel like reality is getting a combination of all these movies that we're getting into. That we, maybe I feel like you might have seen a lot of
Oh,
these too. Ready Player One, and I don't know, iRobot and Gamer, and Matrix. Obviously, it's like we're living in a combination. Truman Show, reverse Truman Show. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of that seems to be coming true, like you said. But I did want to touch on one point because you're saying, yeah, there's some negativity, and there's some people that are just negative for the sake of being negative. I feel like it's outrage for recreation or whatever. But I do notice in the sort of artist community, we've talked to a few people that are getting backlash, and I'm sure everybody's has seen it. There's a bit of a clash between AI and the artist community. Not everybody, but there's some people that have a very strong visceral reaction to AI, and they're saying that it, number one, steals from the artists, and kind of just like replicates their work. Also, at the same time, if you think you're somebody that has talent, that's somebody that's put a lot of time into perfecting some technical craft like drawing or playing an instrument, and then somebody else can come in and use an AI model to create something as good, maybe even better than, I think that's an ethical concern for some people. And so, I mean, I think all of us here are kind of optimistic about AI. We're very, very positive, very optimistic. But I also don't want to dismiss the hate, the concern that people have. Like, I don't even have a question specifically, but if you could just talk about that, like, how do you, how do you see yourself in relation to, like, is it art if somebody pushes a button? Is it art if the AI model generates it for you? Does it take away from artists and art? Where are you on that spectrum?
Yeah, and how should those people feel if
Right.
they feel robbed by technology? Like how do you tell them that in a few years maybe it will be okay if you start using it also and have a different career path?
Yeah, it's a great questions, and I think the way I like to look at it is, I zoom out. It's like I zoom out. I zoom out and I zoom in. But zoom out, it's, for example, like how long has film been around, like in relation to any other medium, for example, or for as long as we've existed. Like it's a tiny fraction. It's not about, there's been this tying of, your job is your life, or what your technical skill is your life. And I think that's maybe a bit of a shame, because we're so much more than that one thing that we know in general. That instrument, you can learn more instruments. You've learned so much, there's a way to expand it. It's not that just that one thing. And if you're that one thing, you're probably going to get replaced by something that can just do that one thing. So it's kind of like zoom out and think not just about you, think about everybody, and maybe what this does for, for people, for humanity. It's like the taxi driver and the robot taxis, for example. Like obviously the taxi drivers are not going to be happy that we're going to have autonomous cars, but maybe that's going to save a lot more lives, and they'll never have to work again. What if they would get unlimited money? Then, oh, so it's more important for them to be a certain job than having everybody benefit. I think there's like, I kind of would look at it like that and remove my specific, ego from the equation and look at it again as like the history. This is a I also tie it to other things, and I think it's hard. You could say that about music, but you could say that about any other thing, about law, about medical, about software engineers, right? I mean, it used to types. So I look at it as not an AI revolution, it's like human evolution. This is a bigger thing than my job, the instrument that I play, or this thing that I've studied my whole life. It's way bigger than me, or it's a human species level event that's happening. And so it's going to be hard for anybody to grasp and even understand unless you maybe try to zoom out a bit and kind of compare it to something maybe similar that you can get inspiration from, even though many might argue that it's something very different than anything we've ever witnessed, right? But once you do that, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, the world's bigger than I think it's about people, and it's about expression and compression and communication. If we've seen the evolution of how humans used to communicate and how we used to get messages across, like that's been evolving. And now we're entering an exponential state where it's not just going to be a song that I'm going to be creating, it's going to be a world that with a song that you can go ahead and experience. And so you could look at it very small. And at the end of the day, it's like a reflection of the person. Are they scared that they can't learn, or are they scared they won't succeed or survive or lose themselves in this other world? It's a big reflection of that person. And you could tell people that are confident in themselves and their ability to figure it out and for things to be okay, they're not. That's where I also see the true, confident artists or entrepreneurs that are like messaging me that they believe in their ability to just figure it out and learn, and they're not scared of anybody coming in and copying them. They know that there's only kind of like the present and the moment, and it doesn't matter what there was before or what there was after. So I think it's hard to grasp. It fully makes sense. I think that's a very natural instinctual reaction. Fear will make you hate and be afraid of something. And then the question is, why are they afraid? What is it, right? So you need to break it down. Everybody has different things. That's kind of my opinion about it. I think everybody can embrace it uniquely. And again, if everybody's going to start creating these more immersive experiences in a way, then it's going to be much more than just the song you created. You're going to be responsible for creating a whole world. And there might be a person that's just creating the set, and they'll use somebody else's music or whatever. But you're now crafting a message and an experience that is so much more, in a way that can be so much more kind of like easy for a person to understand, right? Because there's more information that they can be getting. Uh, yeah. So there's lots of
Right.
different ways to look at it, but obviously I would say just experiment and try to see how you can use it to, again, get to where you want to get faster, whatever that may entail.
When you're imagining a world where people do have much more creativity and we're not so much tied to our jobs, at the end of the day, do you usually imagine something like a universal basic income giving people that freedom? And if so, how do you kind of imagine us getting from here to there? Would it be through governments, or you mentioned crypto for a second? Are you familiar with Sam Altman's WorldCoin project? Do you feel like that could be the savior for universal basic income throughout the world? Or just walk me
Um,
from here to some of the things you're imagining.
So, I mean, I think it's going to be different. It's not going to be a one size fits all solution. Definitely not in the beginning, like most things, maybe over time. And it's certain if we expand the timeline and we live in space and stuff, the certain types of money and income are not going to be as relevant. But I think for sure, technology is going to create abundance for certain individuals, groups of peoples, and countries. So they're going to have a surplus. And then how they decide to allocate that is, and which is kind of like you could say about a lot of like the US as well right now. It's, one of the wealthiest countries of the world, if not the, but there's still people that are living in poverty. So, and there's on the other hand, people that are very wealthy. So there isn't even a shortage necessarily of capital now. If to everybody have, minimal kind of universal base income in a way, I think it could be, they can cut it out of some place, right? You can theoretically have it. Like there's the infrastructure to give people food, electricity, housing. It's not in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's going to be all depending on the politics. It's hard to understand or to predict exactly who is going to be in charge of what. There's kind of too many small variables, but I think over time, yeah, there's this graph, there's this chart that shows like the GDP over the history of humanity. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's it's a massive exponential curve. So even not by zooming out and thinking what you can do with technology right now and how you're going to be able to automate and do all this stuff, like there's no way that there's not going to be more value created more than ever before. And that there's going to be people that are very wealthy, and they're going to have, you're going to have robots that do all the basic needs are going to be easily supplied if people want to. So um, there's going to be that wealth. Some countries might say, we don't want UBI. Some countries might say we do. They're going to experiment. Now, is it the right way for people to function? I think it would make sense to give everybody kind of not having to worry about surviving. So it could be like a thriving society. So everybody has what they need to surviving. And now you want to thrive, you can go out and do things, and people push you and they try to incentivize and give you help. And I think when people have a lot, most people look to give more. So it's kind of like this community, organization, country, or whatever that will be much more wealthy than any other country if they can figure it out and do that. And I think I've seen some good steps in that direction, like giving ChatGPT to the whole country, or I think the Emirates did that,
That's
Dubai
right.
did. So I think just if any country would now give all of the citizens free ChatGPT, like you will have a massive GDP increase so fast. Everybody will be smarter. Everybody will be able to go out and there won't be any friction between trying to get information to get you somewhere, right? Of everybody. So the chain reaction of that is massive, and that can happen like that. It's crazy. I think more countries should do that. It's a no-brainer to me. But you'll probably have, we're going to see that. So that's already universal base intelligence, I think it's called, or something like that, right? Different kind of UBI, but
Oh, I haven't
that
heard that.
is
That's a good
already,
one. Yeah.
yeah, it's already giving you, that could be worth more. That's probably even worth more than the certain monetary amount that you get, giving somebody the ability to infinitely have an infinite teacher, builder as these get better. So maybe we'll have that, and we are already having that, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that I think a lot of people miss about the ideas of like UBI and stuff like that is we talk about like giving people money to support themselves we think of it as modern prices, like what does it cost to pay for stuff now? We're not really taking into account like what happens when massive automation reduces the prices, because the biggest sort of input to cost is like the human labor. If we get rid of that through robots, through whatever, through cheap intelligence, like prices are going to come down. So it's like that's a big point to understand, because in the future everything might be significantly cheaper. So something that seems completely unrealistic now, like what if everything's 1/10 or 1/100th the cost, or if it gets cut in
Yeah.
half every 5 years? Like that's a whole different ball game. We went to a conference, and after Nano Banana came out, and I was messing around with it, doing tons of tests. There's one where like it was just me and Dylan in the shot, and so I I removed
I know what
him,
you're talking about.
and I was like, remove my shirt, make me look fit, and there's a couple, and it did it so like fairly realistically. So I posted a few pictures on X, and I said, this is my new sort of nano banana diet, as I said it. So just like looking fit. I'll share my screen. I'll show
Yeah.
people what I
I
mean in
think
a
I saw
second.
that
Just
photo. I think I liked it. Yeah.
here's the thing. Because I think so many people hit like, it went a little bit wider than my normal audience, wider than just a tech audience. So you had some really just incredible comments like, good for you, brother. You did an amazing job. Keep it up. And I was like, oh, shoot, that's not what I meant. The intent wasn't to deceive people. I assumed if I said nano banana diet, people would be like, oh, I get it. But
Well, especially because you were like, there's a new technology to change your body, and unrelated, I hit my new perfect weight and diet. So they're like,
oh man,
it's
well,
like so clearly connected if it's ironic, but without it, it looks like a fact.
I need to be careful with my sarcasm on Twitter, because it does not come across. But can we talk about that for a second? Because it's like it's getting to the point where it's so hard to understand what's real and what's not. And most people think of it as, just seeing an image and thinking it's real when it's AI, somehow doctored by AI. But it's the opposite is also true, because I mean, you might see something that's real and dismiss it as fake, because it's like,
Did you
whatever.
see
It's
that video of the cat, the Chinese cat, the person who built this massive like cat house that's a replica of a city? in
No,
a subway, and everybody thinks it's AI, but it's a real video. So he has to make another video showing how he built the whole thing. It's really funny.
that's
Yeah.
going to
Oh,
be happening
yeah.
more and more, I think.
Well, I
But
know
yeah,
there's been people traveling to locations where they saw cool things and they don't exist, and they've been, like,
right.
annoyed, and for sure, we're in the very beginning of that.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, is that going to affect the world if we can't really trust what we see as much?
I mean, it's gonna affect it, and there's gonna be instances of its impact. But I also try to think like where we were before. Again, early days of cinema, where we were before. When I think that's a good comparison. And there was this. I remember when I was studying in the U.S. and they had this story about an alien invasion. I think with the radio, right, where it's
Yes.
everybody heard radio, and it was this big event that happened where people didn't know. They thought there was a real alien invasion based on a radio broadcast because it didn't say it was a show. So it's like the question is, are we going to see this mass? Because we're probably going to see anybody can one person could be deceived by AI, and it could be you know uh, in an unintentional way. But I think the question is like, is something massive scale? That's what's worrying more people, right? It's like if nobody knows, and who's to say that all of what we see right now is not already this sort of reality and a simulation, and where we're already seeing some sort of thing. I think it's like there's so many things that can go right or wrong, and there's so much to worry about. I try to kind of just go as it goes and not pay too much attention to it, to be diligent, to always second guess anything that I see. Even in reality, base reality, you see something, you shouldn't take everything for face value 100%. You kind of need to develop that skill of, suspecting and when not to suspect. And if you want to go deeper into something, you can always cross check it very quickly. You'll find that certain things dissolve once you do an extra minimal step. But of course, not everybody does that. And I think another good thing is I'm trying to show people what's possible so that they can become more aware. The best defense is offense in a way. If everybody knows that you can already generate this stuff, then it loses its ability to deceit. But any arbitrary person in the world can be the smartest person in the world can be tricked at a certain point. So,
Mhm.
I think it's going to happen like that. I don't think at a worldwide global event like that's going to cause everybody to immediately do something is probably going to happen because there's too many ways to cross check it. Once it gets to that scale, it should dissolve over time. Like
Yeah.
once there's enough people, like you kind of like blockchain in a way or whatever, you should be able to and it's really interesting. It's like society is built on this sort of way where when there's enough people, you should be able to counter prove or, corroborate some sort of reality. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I think those little things are going to happen. Yes, of course.
I think we build up like an immunity response over time, like the
Yeah.
antibodies or whatever. I remember I mean, the first really big thing that went is that fly Pope. Remember where he's got the puffer jacket, looks like a rap star.
Maybe 5 or whatever that
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but after that, people are like, okay, now I got to be careful, and you quickly figure out how to like just be more aware of it.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
those jokes on Facebook where it's like all these viral photos are going and there's the meme of like there's this really AI thing and it's like that's not AI, and then there's this really not AI thing and people are saying that's AI on Facebook, and it gets 100, like it's this little girl painting a massive thing that there's no way it's real, but it gets. But that could also all be bots. You don't know. I think one of the issues as well, and that's why you also need to treat social media in a way as not reality, as any version of reality you want, really like Ready Player One, because you know uh, most of what's going on is in some way altered, and somebody has a narrative and an agenda. And I kind of think we are already living in Mark Zuckerberg's simulation and Elon Musk's simulation, in their version of it, playing by their rules when we're entering it, and so forth. So you have to be, back to Dylan's thing, like more playful about it and not think it is a what you do. And that's a lot of times what's interesting. Like what you do in the Matrix doesn't necessarily impact, 100% what happens in real life. If you are, but at the same time, it can. It can. So it's that's why it's very hard for people you need to know when you can make that distinction and not be afraid to kind of fail or say these um, certain things. It's not real, it's a representation of somebody's reality in somebody's reality. Um, yeah, no, not need to forget that, I think.
yeah, that makes sense. A lot of the tech researchers, like Sam Altman, he's got his bunker off of New Zealand. I think he's got his bug out house. Ilya Sutskever, I think, said we need to have a bunker before we release AGI, stuff like that. Um, So a lot of people are considering where to live if everything goes wrong. So with that, where do you live? Tell us a little bit about that.
Like, where? How do we get into your bunker?
Yeah, is that a
I
good
don't live
place to?
I
Yeah.
don't live in a bunker. I live on an island that I think would be one of the last places that would interest anybody to go and do anything to. It's this tiny island in Thailand, um, where it's so nice because I have such a clear distinction between this digital world, and the outside world, which is actually a lot less, technological, and there's a lot more of that kind of old school people talking to people playing music, living the simple, basic kind of pleasures of life. So if it comes down to here, then I think it's I'll take it. It's the end of the world, and it has come to this island in Thailand. Um, but I think uh, to Elon's maybe theory of multiplanetary species and moving like that, that would probably be a higher chance of protecting versus everybody staying on Earth. I don't hope like that. I really think that there's a high chance that humanity will go into the positive, the utopian side, at least for a certain amount of time, and that so I feel somewhat disconnected from that. I would
Um,
recommend going to an isolated place where you can have community, where you could have abundance,
Nature.
whatever it means for you, nature. I mean, it's so easy today. Again, with Starlink, you can get internet pretty much
Oh
anywhere,
yeah.
and it's crazy. You have what's it called, energy, solar energy that you can. There's all these cheap solar energy solutions. So I think actually there's going to be more of these like micro communities that should be
Hmm.
spurring up, that are very resourceful. You don't need a lot, but at the same time, in the digital world, you could, and even in the physical world, you'll be able to generate an immense amount of value. So there's a high arbitrage there. Maybe they'll have underground bunkers. I hope not. Yeah, I would say though, interesting spicy take maybe is that I think, and Ilya also talks about it, and many of them do, but about the general concept. So the spicy take is that Elon Musk has already invented a time machine, or is on the verge of inventing a time machine. That Twitter is basically the massive database to train this time machine, because it's just a record of time somebody has spoken, something, event, thought of the
Oh.
whole world. Once you have enough of that, you should be able to predict, given input and output. So what would be the future tweets, future events, and so not only that, you could probably do it bidirectionally. So once you say a future event, you could know what will happen up until, or one of the things that will happen leading it, in a form of tweets. And so just like say it's not, a model isn't predicting the next word. It's not just a simple prediction. It's a predicting its understanding of a given world. It's so much more in a textual representation, in an image representation, in a visual representation, soon in a 3D playable representation. And so that's to me why you would buy. It would make sense to buy it, because it's probably the most accurate, real time. And he even says it multiple times, neural, corpus of information of all of humanity. And it will also explain why he's done all the things that he's done. He either knows that he's going to invent a time machine, or he's already invented a time machine, and he's just, following his intuition how to do the things that his future self has set up for him. Kind of like that movie Paycheck, also a great movie with Ben Affleck, I think, where they invent a time machine actually, and his whole thing is giving himself things into his situation to get out of. He leaves all these tools for him to get out, like random tools to help him succeed, because he knows what's going to happen in the future. And I mean, I don't know. I haven't found a lot of counter arguments to this theory, and I think it makes sense. And we see it in ourselves in intuition at a small level, like being able to kind of know what to do. It's like intelligence. They say, him and Trump, intelligence is the ability to predict the future. And now you're starting to see these leaderboards comparing. Have you seen those leaderboards comparing the ability of certain models to predict the future, and
Yeah.
seeing how that's
Profit
getting better and
bench.
better?
Profit bench. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Being prophets. So, like, this is all stuff that's happening right in front of our eyes, and we're all part of Elon's mass time machine training model, actually, which is funny to think about. But it is very interesting because, I mean, I see it. The more the models get better, the more I can use it to make the outcome that I want happen, and so can other people. Like, you're seeing it on small and on big scales on leaderboard scales, which are supposed to be, are comparing it on an equal level, and you should be able to see some trend there, and also in a individual's ability to create the future that they want for themselves, given like this technology. So, um, yeah, pretty
So,
crazy. So
so would it be something like where it would tell me if I went up to somebody and said something, what they would say back? Or is it a little closer to Minority Report where people have tendencies with high probabilities to take certain actions, so we might want to observe them before they do it?
yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be number of interfaces that you could do. Any sort of interface that you can think. Think of a time machine, and you can build any sort of interface to be in it. It can be a time machine that shows you what you look like in a certain amount of years. It can show you. Could be a time machine that'll show you what you look if you made a given set of decisions, and will break it down to you. Like that's going to be a whole. That's why I generally think that the whole digital technology market, like the that's why being a creator makes so much sense also as like a business decision, is the value that's going to go into the matrix is going to increase. If we're looking at even the last, I don't know, like the amount of value that's been created, all the biggest companies in the world are tech companies dealing with technology and are all dealing with content now. So it's like you will be able to do a lot more, and the ability of the said technology will be able to do a lot more, to produce a lot more back to whoever's using it. So like think of the value of a time machine to somebody. There is no value of what a time machine could be valued to somebody, right? In any way. It's kind of crazy. More than how much would you pay for a time machine? It's like
Yeah. Well, I mean, arguably, when you pay CEOs tens of millions of dollars, it's because they're supposed to be the best at predicting the future, which leads to huge amounts
yeah.
of profit for the company.
And
So,
Sam Altman, right? And the people that have access to these models, like they always have access to the future 6 months ahead, or, they can deduce, they could see where it's going before it gets past all the guardrails. So they also have an understanding. And that's why also, betting on OpenAI early as well was obviously a good decision. Getting GPT early access was a good decision. Um, yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially with Elon, there's does seem to be a very unerring ability to figure out where the puck is going and being there ahead of time. Very like 80-20 Pareto principle is like, here's the one thing, here's the domino that's going to knock everything else over. And he
Yeah,
just
yeah.
tends to just hammer it hard. So either it's just a
cool.
very sharp way of understanding the world from first principles or some sort of a modeling. I mean, when you're talking about time machine, you're talking about more like a predictive thing, not necessarily an actual, like it's just as a data source you're talking about.
No, well, it's
What
everything. It's everything. It's like it's a time machine because it allows you to see different times, but it allows you to reduce the amount of time it takes you to do certain things, right? And technology,
Yeah.
if I look at it in a 2D graph as a human, and since we invent, I don't know, caveman, whatever you believe, right? Caveman, the ability to impact the board, it was limited. Like you could move one slot a game, one slot a day, and then it became two and fire, and you could start. But now the way it's set up is you can impact also like in your obviously in your space, but all around. So it's reducing the amount of time it takes you to do certain things.
Yeah, you shrink
Also,
the timelines, right? You shrink
shrink
how
the
long.
timelines. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why if you are a high agency person, then what used to take you maybe more than a lifetime can now take you so quickly, because if you know how to use these tools, like there's a set amount of, it's right like the matrix, there's a certain amount of prompts that you need to give a computer to output data in a certain way that you need to understand how to do a certain task. And the better you get doing that, then you should be able to learn how to fly a helicopter in a certain way, like in a few hours, if you learn just the important things that you need, the 80/20 for everything. Almost, I'm not saying it's going to take a few hours. There's some things, obviously muscle memory and so forth, but if you compare it to where we were 100 years ago, then it would be, I don't even know what the ratio would be, but it would maybe even be more than 100 to 1 in many cases,
Yeah,
like
one thing
fast.
that we don't talk too much about it, but it does feel to me like a reasonable thought to have a future ASI put together history in such an accurate and detailed way that you could almost think of it like a time machine. Like it seems to me like the Cambrian explosion had all these different species, and we just don't have really a sense of which one came in which order exactly. But something that's ASI and keeps looking at the fossil record and keeps thinking about genetics just might put that all together in a much more precise way. And then to say, hey, like use some computer vision and show me what these animals looked like. And it could pull from just such an incredible data source that, why would that be that, 88, 90% close to what you'd actually experience, 250 million years ago? Like that would be crazy, Or the Cambrian explosion even way before that. But like, yeah, just
That's
wild to
coming.
think about what kind of things we might learn about the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's gonna happen, and there's so many interesting things. Talking to animals, I think I'm really excited. There's a dog here that meet every day. And I think in a few years, being able to understand what this dog is saying, like that's stuff that I'm also excited about. This whole things that we never thought would be possible. And
And that's
it's
already
happening.
happening. There's a
Yeah.
few animals that they've made AI models to be able to
I think
interpret their
dolphins as well.
dolphins.
Dolphins
Yep.
as well, right? Yeah, yeah. So that's gonna be so cool. And yeah, can be an explosion on explosion on explosion of different things. That's why again, I think like these thoughts a lot of times about like me and my job, me and my thing, like you need to zoom out and understand the massive changes that are happening, but also the massive opportunities. Anybody can become a world expert in anything, now and in multiple things. And that means that anybody has the opportunity to impact their lives and other people. And you know once you zoom away from the fear of like how I will handle it, and that's a whole other saga of how you need to go ahead and do that. I think the people that see this bright side, like they're so excited about all of this stuff. And I'm one of those people as well, and I
Yeah.
think you guys are some of the two of those people as well.
Absolutely. And to the people that are want to know about the Dolphin project, that's Dolphin Gemma. It's out of Google DeepMind. So they're building a large language model, but the language is Dolphin. So and they're making progress with it. So that's
Yeah, I mean, it's not that crazy because there's a language of binary, there's a language of MRI, there's a language of protein folding. You don't always think of them as languages in the traditional sense, but they're
Yeah.
communication methods with patterns, and AI can pick up on that stuff just like English and Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, there's right there is, and I think Demis talked about it, the Lex Friedman podcast, but it's just like if you zoom out and look at all of this is going out, and how there's hidden language and everything. It's just being over years and years of all this kind of dances of all the things that are going on. There is a certain code that becomes the randomness becomes a pattern over time, and everything that happens, right? And you'll see that there's so many. It's in a dolphin speaking. It's in how rain falls on a mountain. It's how people do a routine in a given amount of place. Like everything can be sort of modeled in a way to help you predict the future outcome, or to help you change time and see what that would look in a given time. And I think that's now with the whole Genie 3 and the simulation and all these things are it's it's kind of like we are seeing these thoughts or these movies now becoming into reality, something that we can go ahead and feel. And I'm just tying it back to kind of how Elon thinks we're in a simulation. And I think, given that, you would basically say, okay, if this is sort of like a video game, then what's your goal in a game? Is it to stay in one spot, or is it to keep moving and exploring and finding new things? And if you do that in a video game, the worst case is you die and it's a game over. But in reality, kind of right, that happens no matter what. So you might even if you don't move over at 100 years, you're going to die. So might as well try to kind of explore and see how far you can go ahead and do and take as many risks as possible, because your outcome will be the same no matter what if you don't take those risks. So I think whether we live in a simulation or not, Elon has concluded that it doesn't matter. And so just taking more risks, you are either going to become wildly successful or you're going to die. That's really the two. If you just keep on accelerating every day and you keep um, in a lot, I think that's a good. It's a nice way. It's kind of like doomy, but it's a nice way to think about it, and allows you to take risks, and you will find that more quickly than you think. Maybe you're going to see success in the paths that you're exploring. It's like we are wired to go ahead. I think some of us to go ahead and do that, and that's how innovation happens, and that's how clashes happens as well. But we're in this unique place where there's a potential abundance for everybody to have what they want, I think, or a lot of people to have what they want. Um, yeah, and so I think it's about
Like,
spreading that and sharing that and showing that to people.
what is something or some things that you believe will happen in the future that are hard for you to convey to people today?
I think, yeah, the robots, like that's going to be I mean, robots, autonomous, lots of this autonomous farming, autonomous, taking care of things, this abundance that people might not have to work for survival, this concept. That kind of is in many places as well. If people are a full-time, a thumbnail designer or creator or software engineer typing on a box on a computer, that's already not a traditional hard manual labor, kind of what we've been taught. That has always been a part of most of the human species. Has always been this, like, labor has been a big part, and that might not need that might be less and less, and we might see that less and less, and that's going to look like something part of history. And I think that's going to become soon. Yeah, talking to species or animals and understanding things that we've never been able to understand. And there's so many examples where you look at it, and more it's becoming available in front of our eyes. Being able to think like telepathy in a way, right? Now we're communicating by speaking, but we're soon going to have BCIs, being able to communicate by inner voice or voice. Being able Iron Man suits, why would you not be able to build your own at home Iron
Oh,
Man
yeah.
suit with HUD functionality? If you understand how to prompt and work with these smarter and smarter models and 3D printing and da 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 da, you should be able to solve anything that you want to. And so you're going to have people that are going to be, that's where I think kind of Cambrian explosion wise, you're going to see just people that are going to go, and you see now building these crazy stuff at home. And at the same time, you have a human that is not able to operate a phone, right? That's like a massive gap in terms of ability. And so that's probably going to spread, but maybe it's going to go wavy, because if suddenly a country gives ChatGPT to everybody, that's going to catch up, and that's going to create also these effects. So I think it's going to be very wavy, and you're going to see innovation here, but you're also going to see the spread. Um, yeah, tons of
Wow.
different places all over where you look around.
It almost feels like the wrong word when you say like prompting a 3D printer, prompting a humanoid robot, prompting. I just think of prompting as something like text based. But yeah, at that point, you're almost a true, like a movie director or a CEO or a conductor of an orchestra
Yeah, that's and
prompting.
it's the kind of super creator concept, but why not? And when I say prompting, I mean it could be writing to ChatGPT, hey, I want to build, what are the things that I need? Understanding how, again, the process is no matter what, it's how to talk to a computer, to an AI, to get it to help you get to what you want to get. And that can be over any sort of task. So as once you get better at that, and that's why it's like Ready Player One or like a video game, because the interface is very much similar to a video game. You're talking, you're typing. If you know how to do that, and over time, you should see your ability to get the results that you want improve, right? Content is one example, but you can do this for coding, and you should be getting better over time. That's also something about humans. We get better over the time that we spend. There's almost a correlation in that you will get better in what you spend over the time that you spend in anything. So I think this is no different. And the power of the technology keeps getting better. So yeah, talk to ChatGPT. What do I need to build an at-home robot with an on-screen HUD like Iron Man? Break this down into simpler tasks. Break this down into simpler tasks. Okay, that's kind of like the
That's
TechGuyver, MacGyver
crazy.
sort of concept. But what
Yeah.
what can you not do today? What is something that you cannot get an answer to do, and that can't figure out? Like with AIs that are smarter than that have all of the
Yeah.
human, yeah, like what?
But if you
Yeah.
really wanted an Iron Man suit in the future and you were like, look, I'm just going to spend a few months on this. I have something like ASI or some really powerful GPT. The first prompts might give you AutoCAD renderings. You might send those off to some manufacturer and they might mail you the pieces you need. And then you put,
Oh,
I don't
Nano
know,
Banana now. Make me a suit like an Iron Man. This is what I want it to look. Now you could go
yeah,
from image to, you can go back, actually create a video of this image, and then you could put it to Gemini to break down. So you can visualize the whole thing and see exactly how it looks and get it exactly how you want. And there's definitely going to be YouTubers and creators doing this. I mean, so many versions of this. And then you could open source that code and like think of how crazy that is. And then anybody can go ahead and build that for maybe it's not the Iron Man, it's for farming at home. So, and I think that's going to be hard to contain, that sharing of knowledge and information. And as we get on edge models that you'll be able to run on your phone and stuff like that, and real time, like just think of all the innovation that's going to happen all around the world.
that's crazy.
And
There's so
yeah,
many
No, I'm sorry.
tasks.
It's just so much. Like you're right. I'm like that dolphin's gonna tell me like, "Hey, I got a better way to fish," and I'm like, "Really? Like, let's
yeah, or
build a
how to
new
swim like
fishing
a
net."
dolphin. You'll be able to maybe ride with a dolphin on a dolphin's back by being able to communicate with it. Why not? There's just like a pro
Yeah,
dolphin trainer.
but it's right. Like you think in sonar. I've never thought that's a much better solution. I just don't think in sonar. Like,
Yeah.
It'll translate to you.
One thing that I can't wait is till where we can have like download some open source. Like what are the top Michelin 4-star chefs, like the world's greatest chefs?
Yeah.
Like if they train a robot how to do what they're doing, then you download it. Then whatever your at home robot's like cooking the best meals in the world. Because really, it's not necessarily the expensive ingredients; it's the skill and the amount of time that it takes a person to do it. There's so many things.
Taste.
And taste, absolutely. So, but if you're able to capture some of that, but before we have robots and iron suits, I think the next wave is going to be, some AI devices that are able to, like glasses. I think you worked with Meta's Ray Bans a little bit. Like, what do you think
Yeah.
about that whole thing? I mean, a lot of people have concerns because it's like if everyone's just recording constantly, obviously there's issues there. At the same time, it would be cool to have something in your ear that's constantly just helping you, reminding you, like,
Yeah.
oh, watch out for this. Like, are you excited about that? Worried? Where are you on that?
There's always, two sides to the coin. I think there'll be people that use it for their, in bad ways, and there's going to be people that use in the good ways, and we need to try to show and inspire as many people as possible to use in good ways. So I think both will happen. Um, so my take on it is obviously there should be some ground rules, and that will form over time, and it can be decided by a community or by a country. And we're going to see probably different legislation about it. But the reality is that it's pretty hard to enforce.
Hmm.
It's going to be hard for people to see and know if it looks like a regular glasses. Already today with the Ray-Ban Metas, like you can't really. An uneducated eye will not be able to know that they're being recorded, even with like a whole light on. Imagine you have it in your contact lens.
Yeah.
Imagine so it's kind of like the same with AI and all like the copywriting stuff. It's a bit hard to put all of this in a box in a certain way. So I think you'll have people that use it, and you'll have people that won't use it. Are we going to live in a world where everybody uses it? Probably not, but there will be places where you're going to be using it more because it can give you a huge advantage to for your own life. Again, saving you time to be able to constantly record everything that's around you, right? That's just information that then you could compress and get it to do what you want. So it can be useful for people that know how to make leverage of it. I think that's coming. I think it makes sense. Everybody's trying to dethrone Apple, like on their hardware play. The MacBooks and the more so the iPhone, and
Hmm.
so it's a bit of a like a holy grail to suddenly be the first input hardware device, right? Whether it's glasses or BCI, then you could skip over all the whole App Store, Apple infrastructure. And I think a lot of people are after that, and they would love that, like the big companies. And I think it's going to happen in a certain way. But again, what's interesting is that different tools have different advantages and disadvantages, and that's why it's not going to be a one player wins all market, even for hardware, I think. Because a big screen is more valuable to me than no matter what, even if I have a screen here, being able to move it. On the other hand, like something that's recording here is better for me and that's just speaking in my ear. So naturally, just like in kind of how the world works, and there's different species and different things that happen, I think we're going to see the same thing for hardware and BCIs. There's going to be different implementations. And what's the competitive advantage there for a company like, you know, to be the number one? There's going to be one big player, but then there's going to be lots of small players building these cheap hardware that connect to, open source on LLM and stuff. So it's beautiful because it means that for consumers and for people, that's probably the best thing that can happen versus one one company can do it, one bad actor can also do it, and then that means that there's really, there's an imbalance in the world, and think of the power that it gives it and constraints and stuff. So that's where I think it's going to go. So generally, for a consumer, yes, spend time using it, spend time testing it, uh, knowing how to use like an AI. Again, like prompting it to get it to what you want is going to be useful. The more data that you have, right, the better you get at using it. So I think that's coming. I love it for recording. Just the POV, I think is really really cool. I don't use a lot of the AI features yet, but once there's real time live translation, which I
Yeah.
think is still far on these devices, maybe a year at least, maybe more.
Hmm.
Even though Pixel, I think demo, but I'm talking about real time live translation where it can even know what the person's like saying, where it's not waiting until it's done. That could be very useful for these types of things. Or AirPods are also going to have it soon, right? Apple just released some. You see, they're going more for a real time AI play because they know they have the hardware, and then they can probably undercut all of these other, model providers. That's going to be an interesting thing. What's going to happen once we get to a level where you can create any image that you want, right, on a local on edge open source or local model? Then like why would you go pay for these other companies necessarily? Like why can't an app developer come in and just provide them that instantly and giving a way better experience to the user? Because there's a limit to how good an image can be. There's a pixel, right? It's a finite space, sort of, if we're looking at a 2D image. So Yeah, I think all these things are going to mean more innovation, more competition, and that's better for overall for people.
All right, so sorry about the abrupt change. Our guest Roy just dropped off, but he is TechGuyver on Instagram, and we're super thankful for his time. We had a great conversation. You can also find him on TikTok. He says it's not his top platform, but he's also there and on X. And you can always catch up with all the things that he's doing with any of the links that are in the description below. We're going to try to make sure to link to everything he did. And yeah, what'd you think, Wes? You like the podcast?
Yeah, I love the podcast. It was very interesting. We went to a lot of depths. And as you can see, obviously, AI video is exploding. One of the most common success stories that we've heard, talking to people at the AI conference, is people that get into AI video and just kind of go viral, blow up. So it's such an interesting thing because it does allow just about anybody to get out there and get exposure to millions of people. And there's a lot of power in that, of course, and it's not going to stick around like that forever. So if there's a story that you want to tell, if there's something that's interesting, this might be a great time to dive into it. And check out his video app. So that's supercreator.ai, not to be confused with supercreator.app, which is a different thing in the adult industry. So yeah, supercreator.ai is the place you want to go to.
Type it in. Yeah.
But yeah, love the chat. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribed. We've got tons of great people, interviews coming in the future, and that we're going to be very excited to share with you. See you in the next one.